Thessalonians 5, verse 17, King James Version. We are all inextricably connected to each other by a power greater than all of us, and our connection to that power and to one another is grounded in love and compassion. Brené Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection. On a Palestinian expedition with a group of women bishops in the Methodist tradition, we visited an economic cooperative between a group of Israeli and Palestinian women. They all lived across the road from each other along the rolling countryside outside of Bethlehem. These women were separated only by borders of religion and culture. The Israeli women were faring better economically, and they decided they could help their Palestinian neighbors by creating a market for their creative expressions, like weaving baskets that were functional works of art. One of the Israeli women shared with us the importance of being connected amid such religious and political volatility. It was critical that they remain connected to their husbands and families via their mobile phones in case of sudden violence or hostilities elsewhere. They needed to know if and where there was trouble, and if they needed to get to safety. It was equally important for them to stay in communication to know that their loved ones were alive and safe. One day, violence broke out. The Israeli husbands frantically called their wives immediately and asked their location. The women were across the road visiting their Palestinian neighbors. They were told to go home to safety. One of the wives refused. They were safe where they were. Their friends would see to their safety. Each group of women would look after the other. Staying connected was essential to their survival. The women maintained communication with each other and their familiar community via mobile phone. This sisterhood among women from two different cultures and religions represented a critical link. Equally important was the association of neighbors, which provided a sense of security during times of trouble. Connection is important. Connection provided an energy that repurposed their behavior and actions beyond cultural and religious restrictions. Each group was seen, heard, and valued, and as such the groups were strengthened and sustained by that association. Life is a series of connections. From infancy, we need association with others. Our early associations come primarily through touch. A century ago, babies deemed unwanted were placed in orphanages, and most of these infants died before they were a year old. Researchers discovered that the high infant mortality rates within orphanages in the early 20th century and before were strongly connected to the insufficient amount of human contact the babies received. Even when those babies were given the proper nutrition and care, they still did not receive adequate amounts of touch, connection, and so the majority of them stopped growing and eventually perished. Babies need to connect with other humans in their formative years. But our need to be linked to others does not end with infancy. Our need to form attachments beyond self continues throughout our lifetime. Sociologists, psychologists, and neuroscientists have devoted a significant amount of research to the human need to make connections. In 1951, McGill University researchers conducted an experiment on sensory deprivation. A selected group of male graduate students were paid to stay in small, confined chambers equipped with only a bed. They could leave the space only to use the bathroom. The subjects wore goggles and earphones to limit their senses of sight and hearing. They also wore gloves to limit their sense of touch. The original research plan was to conduct the experiment for 6 weeks. None of the students lasted more than a week. Most of the student subjects experienced a diminished ability to think clearly, and others suffered hallucinations. We all need to connect.